Hey fans, this episode is The Lake House. Now, The Lake House was a country-style hotel that was located in Southwick, Massachusetts, on the shores of Congamond Lake, then known as Southwick Ponds. Now, I've always been fascinated by The Lake House. It just has this strange allure that's hard to describe. Anyways, as we go through the story, diehard fans of the Southwick Time Machine will probably recognize a couple names. One being Walter Dobbins, as he has appeared on the Southwick Time Machine before. Anyway, let's dive right in, so here we go. Walter Dobbins bought the Southwick Hotel in 1884, and as fans of the Southwick Time Machine know, the Southwick Hotel is the modern-day Southwick Inn. Anyway, authorities arrested Walter on at least 2 occasions for illegal liquor sales. When Walter fell severely ill sometime around 1887, his recovery was slow, and that may have prompted him to sell the Southwick Hotel in early 1888. The $5,400 sale included the hotel, farm, outbuildings, and furnishings. Now, back then, the Southwick Hotel property was massive. Behind the hotel, as if going up Granville Road, and back then it was known as Hillside Road, but behind the hotel going up Granville Road was the Southwick Hotel's farm. And it had barns and other outbuildings, and next to the hotel there were some stables for overnight guests to secure their horses and store hay and whatnot. Anyways, Walter made a full recovery in 1888, and he bought the Lake House at Southwick Ponds later that same year. Now, the Lake House is located on Lake Road, that's today's Congamond Road. It was across from Saunders, about where the now closed Franklin House is today. Folks loved the convenience of the Lake House. It was about a 2-minute walk from the train stop, and that eliminated the need to hire a carriage. You have to remember, the roads were dirt and there was no automobiles. So the Lake House dates back to the late 1800s. It was a charming and popular venue known for its grand clam bakes and other family-friendly events held in its grove, which also had a dance floor. The Lake House was initially open to the public on a seasonal basis, usually until October, and in the wintertime it became a flop house for ice cutters due to a housing shortage for transient workers from the nearby Berkshire Ice Company. With the changing times, the Lake House underwent a dramatic transformation. It was notorious for illegal alcohol, and authorities constantly raided it. It became such a sight of disgrace that Selectmen residents were eager to have it shut down. Some even advocated for it to be torn down. The most notable raid took place in late 1903, at which time authorities arrested Walter Dobbins' wife, an employee named William Saunders. The raiding party seized so much illegal alcohol that they said it was all 2 horses could draw. To maintain the raid's secrecy, selectmen sought the help of authorities from Springfield, Agawam, Palmer, and Westfield. They aimed to prevent Constable Babb, who was a friend of Saunders, from discovering the raid. Babb not only turned a blind eye to the illegal activities at the Lake House, but was also a frequent visitor, and this added a layer of tension and drama to the situation. In the months following the raid, the Lake House announced it would be closed for the summer of 1904 due to Miss Dobbins' illness, but it is believed that the selectmen revoked the Lake House's innkeeper's license. And just to note, before the 1903 raid, William Saunders and Mrs. Dobbins were arrested during raids in 1892 and 1896. Anyway, what should have been a place of pleasure and fun had its fair share of tragedies. Some were self-inflicted, others were undiagnosed. For an example, on the morning of January 28, 1904, several Berkshire Ice Company laborers got in a drunken fight. That evening, one of the laborers, a poorly clad man about 30 years old, he had been drinking all day. He was found dead in his room in the Lake House. There was no evidence of foul play, and the autopsy showed the man had heart trouble, believed to be induced by alcoholism. Then there was George Reinhold. He left Springfield on August 30th, 1913 to enjoy Labor Day weekend fishing at Congamond Lake with a friend. The pair checked into the Lake House, and the following night, George retired about 11:30. Sadly, his friend found him dead in his bed at about 5:30 a.m. on Labor Day. Guests weren't the only ones dying. A Lake House employee named Peter was driving down a hill near Southwick Ponds on May 13th, 1901 when his horse got startled and he was thrown from his carriage into a tree. The horses took off. Some people brought Peter to the Lake House where a doctor examined him and determined that he had 3 broken ribs and possibly a broken spine too. He died roughly 3 hours later. Another employee, a Polish immigrant named John, he worked at the Lake House and left on the night of August 7th, 1907 and rode out on South Pond around 10 p.m. to fish for bullheads near the Berkshire Ice Company's namesake ice house. Later that evening, someone found his unoccupied boat with his lantern in the bow still lit. When the sun came up, a small search party formed. They found John's body around 8:45 a.m. with a rope wrapped around his leg and the other end attached to an anchor. This led authorities to believe that he committed suicide. But after further thought, they came to the conclusion that the rope probably got tangled around his leg while he was throwing the anchor into the water and got pulled overboard. At least that's what they went with anyway. The owners of the Lake House, they didn't fare much better. Walter Dobbins, he died in the Lake House on February 10th, 1907. That year, John K. Borthwick leased and operated the Lake House with his wife after remodeling it. Now, it's interesting to note that rates under the newly remodeled Lake House under Borthwick started at $1.50 per day, and dinner cost 50 cents. When John Borthwick woke in his living quarters at the Lake House on New Year's Day 1914, he dressed as he normally would for any typical business day, and he walked down to the kitchen, and while lighting a fire in the stove, he dropped dead of heart disease. Now, it's interesting to note that his wife found his body after hearing him fall. Anyway, tourism declined at the lakes primarily thanks to automobiles, but the Lake House experienced a resurgence thanks to a new dance pavilion called the Dance Palace, which was added in 1923. The Dance Palace's grand opening was held on July 4th. Admission was 40 cents and attracted record crowds, the most seen in years. But it was short-lived because on a freezing windy night in January 1925, a fire tore through the lake house. As the flames raced from the basement to the roof, the hallways filled with smoke, cutting off several exits. 26 people, basically ice cutters and their families, were forced from their beds, escaping into 0-degree weather with only their night clothes that they were wearing. Shortly after midnight on January 15th, Southwick's historic lake house is nothing more than a pile of debris, with only its chimneys standing. However, the Dance Palace remained untouched, and it, along with the Grove and bathhouses, opened for the summer season, but only 2 days a week. And sadly, fire destroyed the lake house's dance pavilion at about 1 a.m. on November 18th, 1928. You can read about the lake house online at www.southwicktimemachine.com. The complete story is there, as are any edited out portions and the author's additional research notes. If you enjoyed the story, please click the like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel because you never know where the Southwick Time Machine will take you. Stay tuned for more historical curiosities as we continue our mission of preserving history through storytelling. Until next time, thank you for watching.